How far would you go to keep a promise? What lengths would you go to? What hell would you endure? For a family member? A friend? A partner? What's the promise itself? Is it that important? Is it worth it? What will it cost you, and even others, in the end? Signalis is special. It's a game that, after playing it for the first time, became engraved in my brain. It's a game that I genuinely believe to be one of the best examples of games as art. And even though I didn't fully have a grasp on its story, the emotional train wreck of an impact it had on me was beyond almost every piece of media I've ever consumed. I said almost. This video has been difficult to make. Originally, I wanted it to be out by Halloween. It's now November, December, January, February as of this voiceover, and the reason this one took so long is there's so much that I want to cover, which boils down to 3 general topics: the gameplay itself, the story, the art and references to media and literature throughout the game, and the music, a few tracks in particular I wanted to highlight. I love this game, I love this story, and I hope this video will do it justice. But before we jump into it, I need to reiterate my warning from before the beginning to make this as clear as possible. If you love survival horror, or horror in general, you owe it to yourself to play this game as blindly as possible. It is not for the faint of heart, but I will say right now that I wholeheartedly recommend this game. Play it, then come back to this video if you want to. With that said, let's start with the easiest thing to go over first, the gameplay itself. Quick note. Normally I'd mention game mechanics, level theming, and whatever else as they show up or become relevant in a playthrough, but I wanted to quickly go over it here so I can focus primarily on the story as discovered through the playthrough itself. If you've already played Signalis and know how it plays out and all its mechanics, or just don't care and want to get into the story of the game, skip to this timestamp on screen now, and if I finally figured out chapters, there will be a handy little chapter list in the video so you can skip ahead if you want. Anyways, let's actually get into the gameplay now. First and foremost, Signalis is a survival horror. Gameplay wise, it's very similar to Resident Evil and Dead Space in that rationing ammo, timing shots, knowing when to avoid or run past enemies, and stomping down enemies to fully kill them are all staples from those games. A feature taken from Resident Evil 1's remake, however, is the Crimson Head mechanic, where downed enemies could get back up and were stronger and faster. In Signalis, this applies to every enemy. Any single one that you shot could potentially rise back up, but luckily they aren't any stronger, and it adds to the tension of backtracking through rooms of enemies that you cleared out, because you don't know which one of them's going to get back up, or even if they will get back up. Aside from all that, the atmosphere, feeling, and overall vibe is Silent Hill to a T, with the mirror scene at the beginning and one area being clear references to Silent Hill 2. Alien also feels like a big inspiration. If not, then that kind of junk tech future portrayed in those original films definitely was. And I'm a sucker for it, since the Alien movies are my favorite horror film franchise of all time. Now, if you've never played a survival horror game, or just Resident Evil for that matter, I'll break it down for you in one sentence. Everything is finite. Bullets, healing items, even inventory space. You have 6 spaces by default. There is a setting to expand your inventory size to 8 instead of 6 if you find 6 to be too little, or you need the extra help to get through though. In Resident Evil and Silent Hill, you have at least a melee option against enemies as a last resort when you're out of ammo. In Signalis, well buddy, you either got the guns or the runs, no melee option here. Technically, there are these stun prods that instantly knock down enemies, and can chain the tase if the enemies are close enough together. However, these aren't plentiful enough and tend to be a bit more rare than ammo is, but they are a good option to clear out rooms or take out a revived enemy. Something to mention with how all enemies have that chance to get back up, there is an item that will actually kill them permanently, and that's thermite flares. However, these are even more rare than the stun prods, and are best used on down enemies in areas that you know you're going to be running through a lot. You'll get different weapons throughout the game, from the tried and true pistol and shotgun to more powerful weapons we'll talk about later as we get them. Obviously, the pistol and the shotgun tend to have more ammo lying around since they're your workhorse weapons. The more powerful ones have scarce ammo and are better saved for certain rooms, tougher enemies, or boss fights. Shooting and damaging enemies in Signalis is different to most other survival horror games, if not wholly unique. You right click to start aiming, which will usually automatically snap to the nearest enemy. A red box will appear on them, which shrinks the longer you hold it, and does more damage depending on how small that box is when you fire. It can spark a great deal of tension from slowly backing up while steadying your aim as the enemy closes in on you, until you fire right before they strike. I like it a lot. First time players, including myself on my first playthrough, will probably just see that it auto-targets and then panically shoot at the enemy until they either go down or run out of ammo though. Signalis itself is split into a 3-act structure, each act revolving around solving puzzles and fighting or running from enemies in order to get key items to progress, slowly opening up the labyrinthine maps until you have all the keys to unlock the final door of that area, which typically leads to a boss fight, which, once beaten, transitions into the next act of the game. With how the game plays and its mechanics laid out bare, let's get to the part I really want to talk about, the run through the game itself and its story. A quick warning though, Signalis' story is vague, and a lot of it is up to your own personal interpretation. My interpretation is not the final say on it, and could differ heavily from your own. Anyways, let's boot up a fresh file of the game, and begin our journey. After waking up, or seemingly booting up, we awake to an eerily quiet room, the only sound we can make out being the wind. As we explore, there's clear signs that something is wrong, what with the red lights flashing in almost every hall or side room. We come to find out that we're on a scouting vessel called the Penrose, meant to search for habitable worlds beyond our solar system. We also learn that we're a replica. Replicas are androids that, while cybernetic, are also organic. They think, feel, and react like regular people, but their neural pattern is copied from a gestalt, essentially a regular human, and their memories of their past life are suppressed to keep the replica unit predictable and productive. We play as an LSTR unit, nicknamed Elster, and we come to find out the ship that we're on has crashed into a planet, and our gestalt officer, A. Young, has already left. We can't get outside until we get an airlock key to unlock and grab a suit in order to head out and look for them. While exploring the ship, we come across some tape next to a status monitor screen telling us the ship had a hard landing and that it's extremely cold outside. We also find the cockpit. The controls are useless to us now, but we find a pretty damaged picture taped up to one of the modules. Eventually, we find our way to a room with a cryopod in it. It's locked with a keypad that needs a certain pattern. We've already explored the whole ship, so while taking a look in our inventory screen, stumped on what to do, we notice the picture spin around, revealing a pattern on the back, and selecting examine in our inventory lets us turn it around to get a clearer look at it, letting us open the cryopod. I know that play-by-play is a little drawn out, but I wanted to highlight it because that's exactly how I figured out the pattern the first time I played, and I thought it was some genius game design, giving us a simple puzzle of needing a pattern, leading us to look around the whole ship for one, until we finally open our inventory screen just looking at our items, until hovering over that picture, one of the only 2 items we can have right now, leading it to turning around and giving us the final piece of that puzzle. With the pod open, we get the airlock key. It's snapped in half, but that's nothing the adhesive tape from earlier can't fix. Combining the 2 in our inventory gets us the repaired card, letting us finally put on the suit and open the airlock to explore the outside. It's almost impossible to see anything out here, even our cursor. We trudge on regardless, eventually passing through a stone gate, and finding a giant hole in the middle of this blizzard. After climbing down, we find and crawl through an even smaller tunnel, leading to a strange room. Old books on a shelf, dark pictures of a coastline and an island, a national flag, a heavy safe wrapped in chains. The door to our left won't open, and the computer and the radio on the desk don't do anything. There's an ancient-looking tome on the table, as the game puts it, and with no other options, we pick up The King in Yellow. That cutscene is one of the most important in the game. I won't delve too deeply into it right now, but some important things to note. Between flashes of Elster's face slowly dissolving, revealing the Terminator skull underneath, we see quick glimpses of an Arctic radio station, a dark island coastline with a glowing red door in the center, lines from H.P. Lovecraft's book The Festival, and a girl holding a knife in one frame, followed by what we can infer to be blood dripping onto a symbol, ending with "Remember our promise" and "Wake up," as a blue screen of death flashes, and the game truly begins. We wake up again, this time in front of a mirror. I came all the way here to find her. There's no turning back now. There's nothing to interact with in the bathroom besides the mirror, so let's head out and see where we found ourselves. In this lobby, we find a pamphlet welcoming us to S23 Sierpinski, a school and mining facility located on a planet named Lang. Fun fact, Lang is a prominent location in Lovecraft's Dream Cycle series, described as a cold, arid plateau where it is, and I quote, a place where different realities converge. This note also paints a pretty bleak picture for people living under the Great Nation it mentions. Its final line directing people to ask protectors about sending a portion of ration marks to a beneficiary of their choice. The surface access lift. I don't need to go back. Checking the front counter, we find a note with a receptionist keycard taped to the glass. The note stating that due to a staff shortage, New arrivals must report to Classroom 4C. Using the keycard to gain access to the immediate next room, we can notice a camera following our every move. We'll see a few more cameras throughout the game, but it's never elaborated or mentioned on who could be monitoring us. The left door is locked and the far right door is inaccessible, but we come across a propaganda poster. Remember the rule of 6. Never carry more than 6 items on your person. Private property is a privilege. Keep your pockets empty and your bag light. This, to me at least, is a cool in-universe way of explaining our inventory size. However, a lot of people take issue with this poster, asking why, in a survival horror game where every decision could be a risk to your life, why the hell would you even obey this rule? And yeah, that is fair, but I always just assumed that being raised or built to work and serve in this repressive totalitarian regime would probably lead to rules like this being drilled into you until it's like second nature. I really like this as a detail explaining a game mechanic, but I can see why most don't. Walking into the next hall, we stumble onto the dead body of a Eula unit, a different replica type. Infected-looking biocomponents bulging out of her damaged shell. We don't know what could cause this, but it's a clear sign that something has gone seriously wrong here. Pretty quickly, we find our first save room. If you've played RE or SH, then you know the deal here. A completely safe haven to plan your next move in, though future rooms will have a box for inventory management that you can store items in to free up space, and you'll always have access to any items stored away throughout any save room across the game. There is a service request form here talking about how a wall safe in Classroom 4B keeps resetting to the default combo, meaning anyone with the instruction manual could easily open this safe anytime they want. The request also mentions a radio code broadcasting system for the Protector staff, something to remember later on.
It has come to my attention that at least one worker might be aware of the code broadcasting frequencies for the Protector wall safes. Any workers connected to this leak are to be interrogated until the culprit is found. I'm restricting all radio privileges for workers until further notice. Adler.
Let's hope that interrogation isn't too aggressive. We do eventually come across that classroom with the wall safe, but we don't know the code, so we'll come back to that eventually. We come across an injured STAR unit who tells us this facility is lost and that we should leave before it's too late. Elster ignores her, pulling out the photo from the penrose, asking if the STAR unit has seen her. The woman in the picture is different though, with long brown hair instead of the short white from before. The STAR says she doesn't know her, but she might be one of the workers. However, all of them were sent down to the mine below the facility. If she's still alive, she's probably down there. There's an access elevator to the mine shaft one level below us, but we need an administrator key to use it, giving us a goal to work toward. We can talk to the STAR a bit more, with her stating that she's leaving as soon as her repair patch stops her bleeding, telling us again that we should leave too. The woman we're looking for is probably already dead, but if we still want to go look for her, she wishes us good luck. The door above her that leads to Classroom 4C is locked, so we snag the Protector key on one of the seats and head back the way we came. If we head upwards in the first hallway, we'll find what seems to be a library. All that's here for now is a dictionary with the definitions of replica and gestalt. Backtracking further, we can now unlock that office below the camera. Inside the office, we discover it's a one-way mirror for monitoring the classroom on the other side. Opening the drawers in the desk, we'll find a note talking about a term that's now banned. Anything using that term is to be renamed, and anyone caught using it will be punished with 2 cycles, a cycle being a day, of a double work shift. Past that awful note, one drawer down, we pick up our first weapon, the pistol, along with an aperture card. It's a good thing we got that pistol too, since the moment we start heading back to that library, that dead Eula unit springs up with a terrifying screech. Quickly taking them out and moving forward, we get back to the library and meet Isolde Ito, Isa for short. Once she leaves, we can find a note that she left on the table for someone named Erica. It seems like Issa is looking for someone important to her as well. In the library, we can use the aperture card on the microfilm viewer, which gives us instructions for the wall safe, more importantly, the code to the Class 4B wall safe, since it keeps resetting to the factory default code. Heading there and opening the safe, we grab the classroom key, and then back in the lobby where the STAR unit was, she's already gone, but she left some repair patches, basic healing items, and some pistol ammo. Finally reporting the Class 4C after using the key, we come to a hole in the ground, and we choose to jump in. We have to find her after all. Immediately, we find rooms with bodies of replicas long dead. We also find a diary entry from a Gestalt woman named Alina Sio. Between mentioning people going missing in the mines more and more lately and not being able to afford to miss any more shifts, God, I felt that in my soul, she does mention that she hasn't seen Elster in a few days. This must be the woman in the photo, the one we're looking for. There's a service hatch on this door with a note saying that the lock is still jammed, but they have a lockpicking device hooked up to it. All we need is a key to open the hatch. After exploring a bit, we find an elevator with a hatch key in it, and we can't do anything else with the elevator right now, since it requires a protector ID card to use, so we head back up to that door and open the hatch to do a pretty cool lockpicking puzzle, though I use puzzle loosely. It's trial and error for the most part, with a bit of intuition. All you need to do is use the arrows to move these blue bits up and down, with the goal of lining up the metal rod's indents with the line in the middle. After messing with it a bit, you'll get it right, and quickly open the door. There's a supply closet just past this hall, with a locked butterfly box in there, which we'll come back to in a bit. Oh hey, some stun prods. These will probably come in handy. Hey, whoa, back off, bitches, I have a taser! Ah! Huh, interesting tree symbol on this wall safe. Maybe there's a code somewhere laying around, or we'll figure out how to tune into that radio frequency with all the codes. Alright, East Wing unlocked, and straight away in this bathroom with some repair patches, there's a locked stall with Elster saying someone could still be inside. I expected a Silent Hill 3-esque scare here, but no, this door never opens. Hey, I think you got it. It's definitely chopped. Maybe diced. Probably cut. You can stop any time. Alright, let's do this the hard way. Just gonna sneak on by, read this note, grab this Mensa key card, and...
Yeah, I've got time.
Using the Mensa key, we get access to... After that, and shooting through another one of those enemies, we come across an office with some more stun prods. The West Wing key with a picture of Alina Sio on it looking pretty rough, and a living, non-corrupted storage unit. She tells us some valuable information. She's the protector controller on this level. I assume that means security, police force kind of work. She also says that the facility is on lockdown, and that everyone is sick, including the commander. She says she doesn't know much more about the situation, but the administrator might, though she doesn't know where he is. Her last bit of dialogue is her saying that she's gonna stay there and wait for orders, not wanting to take any risks. Fair enough. In this worker bathroom, we find a broken half of a key, and after shooting through two enemies, we can see the mineshaft elevator mentioned earlier. Though we can't use it right now, we know where to go once we have that administrator key. Past the elevator, in a locker room, we find a lone single Yule, whom we promptly give some backshots to and step on before moving on to this shower room with another lone single Yule, who promptly gets backshots to, before we take our prize in the form of a second half of a broken key. Combining the two halves, we get the butterfly key, which we'll circle back to use on that box in the supply closet. In the next room, we find a note detailing Gestalt workers who had been arrested and searched on suspicion of stealing a radio to listen in on the wall safe code broadcasts, with certain items of theirs being confiscated. Reasons for arrest ranging from counter-revolutionary activity, distributing flyers at university, suspicion of bioresonance, remember this term for later, I promise it's important, and our own Alina Sio collapsing from exhaustion at work, and finally some guy getting arrested on suspicion of conspiracy against the state. This note paints a very cruel picture of what it's like to live and work for the Yusan nation. Handing out flyers for a bake sale? To the mines with you. Potentially have supernatural abilities? Jail. Collapse at work from sheer exhaustion? Fuck you, now you gotta work even more. And we're taking your stuff from your bunk. Man, this place sucks. At least they don't torture you, though. Oh. So I assume the guy who was arrested for conspiracy against the state was the worker that had stolen the radio to listen in for the safe codes on certain frequencies, because here we find a note titled that. Each frequency has been labeled with the symbol on those safes, so that the safe from earlier with the tree will have its code broadcasted on frequency 181. The only issue is we don't have a radio, or really anything to tune in with. The room itself also has a high-pitched frequency in the background, and it's really starting to hurt my head, so let's get out of here and finally go open that butterfly box. On the way to the butterfly box, let's stop in and save real fast, and while we're at it, let's enjoy the safe room theme for a little while. It's perfect to me, conveying that while you're safe here, danger's just right outside, and you're gonna have to venture out eventually. Opening the butterfly box, all that's in it is a dark stone plate with a red star in the middle. We learn it's called the Plate of Eternity, and upon picking it up, our perspective shifts to first person, much like in the beginning of the game. We've seemingly been transported to an Arctic radio station. We can't leave, and the only door potentially leading out of here has a speaker and is marked with a 160. Luckily, we find a radio module for tuning certain frequencies, letting us unlock that door, but there's a note here from one sister named Camilla Young to another, Iris Young, talking about how Iris's daughter, Ariane, is going to be moved from this radio station her mother operates to live with her Aunt Camilla and attend school in a city on Rotfront. Camilla stating that it's best for Ariane to receive a normal education in the city. Ariane Young. A. Young. The name from the beginning of the game. The Gestalt officer we were looking for before her name was replaced with Alina Sio. But if we're not looking for her anymore, why are we seeing this? Is this a memory of hers? Is it tied to what's going on? We'll have to get out of this place and push on to get answers. Using our new radio module and tuning to 160, the door opens and we're back in the storage closet, still with the radio module, somehow. Once we're out, we can head to the office with the tree wall safe, and using the frequency code note, we can get the passcode and open the safe, picking up the identification card inside. Using this in the elevator, we can finally ride downwards. No matter what floor we choose, the elevator stops at level 3. We see a quick flash of Alina Sio, and the terminal impounds the card. Guess we gotta get off here then. Upon walking into this lobby area, the door on the bottom is locked, and we can see a new gun on the other side of the glass. So walking to the next room and heading up, we get to a save room and get ourselves a shotgun. Now the shotgun is great, and has the most common ammo type next to the pistol, but I'd still recommend being stingy with its use and saving it for groups of enemies. In the room directly above the save room, we find a computer that needs a blank card to print a pattern on. We'll come back once we have one. Exploring the halls, we'll eventually come into a room with an X-ray machine, having 5 items in it. A revolver, a burnt hand, a hopefully fake skull, a rock with a keycard in it, and some disc thing. Focusing on the card and the rock and turning the X-ray on, we see a specific pattern to it. Memorize this pattern, or do what I did and take a picture, because we'll need this for later. We finally come across this door, giving us an ultimate goal in this area. This door has 5 keycard slots, and we've got to find all of them to open it to progress. Each keycard tends to correspond with an element: air, fire, earth, water, and where we find them has to do with that element. But curiously, the 5th one isn't like the others, but we'll talk about that one once we get to it. Also in this room, we pick up the sword cipher note. There's a wall safe later on that has letters instead of numbers, and this note will help us decipher it using a bit of deductive reasoning on our own. Eventually we'll dispatch an enemy in this hallway, and exploring the different rooms, we'll find a socket wrench handle and a pump room key in the bathroom. along with a hole that we can't jump down due to the area below being flooded, but we can unlock the pump room in the same hallway to drain that lower floor. This puzzle would be very confusing if there wasn't a note here telling you the exact instructions on how to solve it, but even then, you need to pay super close attention to each step, because every time you fail, you'll have to restart this puzzle by putting all the water back into tank A. I do like this puzzle, but I remember fucking it up a couple of times on my first playthrough because I couldn't be bothered to read the note super carefully. After solving that and draining the water, we can jump down that hole into the lower floor and pick up our first main key card, the water key. I ran back up and put the water key in the big door and stopped at the save room in the main area to make room in my inventory, before running back down to the drained area and finding the blank key, only to remember there's a save room down there. And on top of that, I realized I was a huge moron because I forgot to start the recording, so that footage doesn't exist, but trust me, it did happen. In fact, here's my notes I took on it, realizing that. In this flooded save room, we find some more stun prods, and the examination room key. I picked up a video cassette in this medical area before these new enemies crawled out of the fucking floor. Jesus Christ. After that nightmare, I ran upstairs and used the blank key on the computer above the safe room and printed the pattern from the key stuck in the rock onto the blank key, which created the earth key, and I inserted that into the big door. I then used the examination room key to open that room up, grabbed the 10mm socket, combined it with the wrench handle, and ran back down to the flooded area, past the area with the... and used it to open this air duct to acquire the air key, dropping that off in the big door as well. In this room, there's a TV with a cassette player hooked up to it, and another page of Alina's diary saying that something's wrong. No shit, Sherlock. Nobody will tell her what's happening, and the protectors won't let her leave her room. She overheard 2 Yule units whispering about them running out of staff. She ends the entry off saying she's worried about Elster. I forgot to bring the video cassette I picked up here on my first go around, so I'll be back here in a bit. Patient EULR S2321. Patient complained about severe nausea and headaches. Admitted to hospital wing after vomiting oxidant fluid during work. Clinical picture in line with other recent cases among Protector staff. While we still have no indication what causes this syndrome, we've observed similar developments in all patients. Most puzzlingly, development of the syndrome seems to progress similarly in both Replika and Gestalt patients. Initial admissions tests showed hypotension, high fever and dehydration, internal hemorrhaging. Strong cognitive decline within first cycle, alopecia and purpura. Within 5 cycles, skin will begin to peel in large patches, decline of vision quality and ability to communicate may follow. Gestalt patients will usually expire at this stage due to infections, while results for Replika patients seem to vary. There's someone inside the oxygen tent. It's hard to look at her. So this seems to be a mysterious disease that affects both Gestalt and Replika alike, but Replicas seem to reanimate due to being more durable than a Gestalt. In another room we find an uncorrupted Yule. Exhausting her dialogue, she says she's the only one left, and she wonders if she'll get sick like the others. More importantly, she mentions that at first it was only Commander Falk that fell ill, and then slowly everyone started acting strangely. So was the Commander patient zero? If so, how did she get sick? Here we find the sword cipher wall safe, and after deciphering and opening it, we get the incinerator key and the eidetic module. The eidetic module is essentially an in-game way of taking a screenshot or picture, but can only store up to 6 pictures at a time. Nowadays, you don't really need to use this, since you can just whip out your phone and snap a picture or take a screenshot on Steam. But if you weren't able to do either of these, this is actually an awesome tool to have. Admittedly, I didn't use it, but it's still a good thing to have in the game that I wish other games had something like this too. Running to the incinerator room and clearing out the enemies right before, we unlock it and get some thermite flares, and then get to the puzzle that I just brute force every time I play. I kinda know how to solve it, but I'm gonna be real, my brain shuts off every time I get to the incinerator puzzle. You gotta set these like CO2, gas, and O2 dials to certain points, and if these lights at the top left light up, You either need to put more or less of whichever one lit up. After a lot of trial and error, you'll eventually get it right and you'll receive the fire key, which I quickly dropped into its slot on the big door. After all that, taking the video cassette to the room with the TV, we can play the cassette. We shift to first person again, a sad, white-haired woman on the other side of the train. The track that plays here reminds me of when I used to take the bus home after a particularly rough day. Walking towards her, she disappears, and we get the final major key, the gold key. This one doesn't seem to correspond with any element. I'm unsure why, but doing some research online, gold keys can symbolize a number of things, like spiritual power, authority, choice, purity, and even love. I think after completing the game and knowing the story, it's up to your interpretation which of these the gold key could symbolize. Inserting the final key and opening this door, we come to a dark save room with lots of ammo and health items, and after rearranging our inventory and seeing no other option, we jump down into the next room. The Mina unit boss fight is tense. This hulking replica will try to shoot you, and will hit you unless you're behind something that'll block the shot. You can't damage her normally, but after a small amount of time she'll fall to her knees and her faceplate will open up, letting you get a good few shots in. But don't get too close, as those lines of blood coming from her face can damage you. She has a sort of phase 2 where she'll call in some regular enemies, but they have less health than usual and go down quickly. She'll sometimes even accidentally kill them herself with the blood coming out of her faceplate, or she can accidentally shoot one that's between you and her. The track that plays during this boss fight just adds to the stress, sounding like rusty, old, creaking machinery was used to make this track. After doing enough damage, she'll go down, and we'll finally meet the administrator.
A visitor. Welcome to our facility. You've caught us at an unfortunate time. How can I help you?
I'm looking for a Gestalt.
A worker at our facility? Let me see that picture. Alina Seo. I believe she's one of our factory workers. However, you shouldn't have returned.
After Adler shoves us down the elevator shaft, our perspective is shifted to first person once again. This time, we're seemingly playing as Issa Ito, through a memory of hers where she fell asleep while waiting for Erica, her sister. We get up and walk through a school, a sign on the wall saying Rotfront Sector C, Mandelbrot Polytechnical High School. So this memory took place at a Rotfront school. In the radio tower memory, we read that Ariane was moving to her Aunt Camilla's to go to school on Rotfront, and sure enough, we see the white-haired girl in this memory who we can assume to be Ariane, though she doesn't seem to be very happy here. Right after this, we awake as Elster again. We survived our fall apparently, thanks to a cushion of a lot of other dead Elster units. How many Elsters have come through here? How's it been that many Elsters to come through here in the first place? For now, we don't know, so we'll just have to move on to the save room below us. In the save room is a maintenance key and some flares. We'll hang on to these for now. The next room over, there seems to be a circuit breaker box, but it doesn't have a fuse, and we'll find one later and come back to this puzzle, cause, whoo boy. This puzzle is a doozy. Straight to the leftmost door, we have access to a service ladder that'll take us between floors 6 through 8, though 7 and 8 are locked from the other side, so we'll find another way around to unlock those. Floor 5 is essentially just the safe room and that fuse power puzzle, nothing else. Exploring around floor 6, we can interact with a lot of stuff that we can't open or do anything with yet, like this post box right here numbered 512, same as our replica unit number, Elster 512. In the same room, there's an owl door requiring its own owl key, just more stuff that we'll eventually be able to open. Through the next door, we find a propaganda poster for Storch units, some 12mm revolver ammo, and a really angry note that's literally called Angry Note.
I am officially sick of the Ewells next door. They've been listening to that stupid song non-stop since the piano room was locked down. If I have to hear it one more time, I am going over there and smashing that stupid tape recorder to pieces. I wonder if there's a way we can borrow a key so we can get into their dorm and put an end to this madness. I don't care about breaking quarantine if it means never having to hear that song again.
Damn, dude. I mean, hey, I get it. If I had to listen to my neighbors blasting one song over and over again, I'd probably go insane too. But maybe ask them to, like, turn it down or something first? Anyways, further into this room and in these showers, there's a replica overview file on star units. It's a nice bit of world building, but more importantly, there's also 3 enemies in this room, and I am not equipped to deal with them right now, so I'm gonna try to sneak around them to the rest of the floor. Right outside, there is a note stating that due to a recent incident, all doors require visible light to open, meaning that any dark room we stumble into, we can't do anything in until we pick up a flashlight module the note mentions. It also importantly mentions that Adler's quarters are on the 8th floor. Good to know. Oh, that's a lot of blood and bloody enemies. I think I'm gonna sneak around these guys too. This room down here has some stun prods, an error unit poster I glanced over, and some pistol ammo, and... oh, fuck, hey, back off, hey, back off! Oh, hey, there are replica overview files here, too. Neat. Alright, nowhere to go but down another hole, and as we jump down, this happens.
I'm afraid the commander won't receive any visitors at the moment. But perhaps I can be of assistance instead.
Who are you?
I'm the administrator of this facility. Please, there's no need to be afraid. I'm just here to help.
Well, hopefully Issa's okay. At least there wasn't an elevator shaft around for Adler to shove her into. Now on floor 7, there's an auto-injector, essentially a full heal, right there. So after giving some more backshots to the Lone Star unit guarding it, we grab it and go on our merry way. Going straight up, past this room with 2 Yule units in it, we come to a cafeteria with 2 more Yules in it, but the fuse for the breaker is right there, so... I didn't have space in my inventory to pick up the fuse, but there is a note with it that says that getting the fuse in and the power up and running will fix the lift, which we can see back out in this hallway, after dealing with the enemies here too, of course. After drive-by tasing the star unit and running past her to immediately tase her friend in the next room, We can unlock the 7th floor service ladder door and head right back up to sort our inventory and save real quick before making the trek back down for the fuse. Back down in floor 7, before grabbing the fuse, I went to check this room and ran into a deceptively simple enemy, a corrupted Calibri unit. When you walk into a room with them, your radio will turn on and you're visually and audibly assaulted with all this. But pay close attention and you'll see a frequency flash on screen briefly. Tune your radio to that in your menu, back out, wait till a new frequency flashes on screen, and repeat until the Calibri dies. In this room is a painting of an island with a red keyhole in it. We obviously need a key for it, but real fast, this is an actual painting called the Isle of the Dead, painted by Arnold Böcklin. Fun fact about this painting, Böcklin painted it 6 different times throughout his life, keeping the general layout and shape of the painting, but details would change. And this isn't even the first time we've seen it, technically, as in the intro cutscene we see a flash of what appears to be the isle itself. It's the same island, the same overall place, but the details in this depiction are different too. Keep that in mind. Anyways, we run back down, nab the fuse, and head straight back up, inserting it into the breaker and eventually finagling these switches until the voltage is set properly. Once that's solved and the power is up and running, I almost died while taking out these enemies on the way to our now functioning lift between floors, letting us finally access floor 8. Heading into this door in the bottom middle, we find a room with a star map of the solar system. Here, Elster will comment on each planet, giving some insight into the universe of Signalis.
Hi Matt, home of the nation's government. I heard the view of the gas giant's rings and the sky is beautiful there. Lang, S-23 Sierpinski is here. Kitesh, the Red Desert. The Imperial fleet can only hold it for so long before it will be liberated. Veneta, the ocean world ravaged by war. When I close my eyes, I can hear the sound of the sea. Buyan, home to the Imperial Palace, floating above the poisonous clouds. Rotfront, the ice moon circling the largest gas giant, still in the process of climaforming.
This star map is important to a puzzle later on, and we'll bring it up again once we get there, but this is some interesting info. Lang, where S-23 Sierpinski and we currently are, is on the outer rim of the system, far away from other planets, so I doubt we'll get help or anyone to even check on us for a while. Elster seems to be familiar with Veneta, an ocean world, and we've heard of and even seen Rotfront in notes and those first-person memory segments. That's where Ariane lived with her aunt, and where Issa and Erica seemingly grew up too. It was mentioned it was still in the process of climaforming, which if you know what terraforming is, then you can deduce that climaforming is just that, modifying the planet's atmosphere and climate to be hospitable to humans. Heimat seems to be the nation's government home base. Kitesh is the Mars equivalent, being a red desert that apparently an opposing nation called the Empire has an Imperial fleet holding control over it. Beyond seems to be the Imperial fleet's home, or at least its leader's base of operation, since the Imperial Palace is floating above the poisonous clouds there. Anyways, moving on, there's a door that needs a library key, another door that needs a hummingbird key and is guarded by 2 Yules, and sneaking past these stars we can unlock the door to the service ladder for floor 8, making backtracking through the areas much easier. On floor 8 past these star units, we can find the mineshaft access elevator. We don't have the keycard to access it, but it gives us our main goal for now. Going through this door on the top right takes us to a dark room with the flashlight module. We can turn it on and off with C, letting us fully explore all the floors now. There's also this door that needs an eagle key, and there's so many goddamn doors that need very specific keys. How did anyone get around here? We also find an Adler unit replica overview file, mentioning that Adler units work as direct counterparts to Falk units, serving them as adjutants by taking care of paperwork and calculations. Essentially, the perfect administrator. Back up on floor 6 and past the showers, we can get through this dark room into a shooting range, finding some ammo, a locked weapon case, and some adhesive tape. There's also a little scoreboard here, with a star unit named Hunter having the top 3 scores, with a perfect 60-60. This isn't important or anything, I just thought it was a fun little detail. Taking the lift down to floor 7, running through this dark office, we come into this protector storage area, containing an island key with a note talking about the Calibri unit holed up in that room with the painting, crying. Anytime anyone got close, they were visually assaulted with flashes of the painting. The note then wonders if a feedback loop of the frequency of her control signal could neutralize her transmission. This is how you'd naturally find out how to kill Calibri units, but we, kinda already did that. Also in the office is a Yule that we quickly take out and claim the Hunter's key for the weapon case. We can also see a poster calling the planet Veneta the Cradle of Humanity. That must mean Veneta is humanity's home planet, this universe is Earth. Running back to the island painting and using the key we just got, we get the workshop key in return. Headed back to floor 6, here we can get into the workshop now, which houses an audio tape player wired to a radio broadcasting unit. We'll need an audio cassette to use this later on. There's also some pistol and revolver ammo here, along with a new note called Replika Known Issues. There's 4 of these we can find in total. This one covers Star and Storch units particularly.
Replika Known Issues 2. Previous experience with these replica models have given us insight into irregularities in their behavior that stem from the original neural patterns used for these units. Due to the sensitive nature of this information, this document should be destroyed after reading. Star. Despite their normally laid-back demeanor, stars have a strong internal hierarchy, which is important to take into consideration when promoting units to officers. Not promoting a respected unit or promoting a unit low in status can lead to friction within dorms. Stars will occasionally develop in-group rules involving physical punishments. It is recommended to allow some officers to own military weapons as fetish objects to stabilize their persona. STCR. Storch units initially have a short temper. Training them in patience early after development is key, as their neural patterns are less stable than other models. Failing to do so may yield an extremely volatile personality prone to cruelty and violence. A common strategy is pairing them closely with an older star unit. Storch's persona stabilizes by showering or bathing. Books on history or mythology work well as fetish objects.
These notes show that replicas aren't as foolproof as you'd think. Their persona degrades unless stabilized by doing certain actions or having items given to them, called fetish objects. And no, not that kind of fetish. After reading that, we use the hunter's key on the weapon case and get what is probably the strongest weapon in the game, the revolver. Ammo for this guy is scarce, and I tend to hoard all I can find and save it for specific situations or boss fights, but just know that it packs one hell of a punch. Heading back down to floor 8, grabbing the shutter gate handle and having to beat the ladies back with a stick, we can find a replica overview file for Mina units, detailing their use for cargo, heavy machinery, and hazardous environments. It also mentions that the MNHR neural pattern isn't suited for combat, and that an SAPR variant should be used, employing a combat-capable persona in the same frame. It's kind of fucked up to think about. 2 different neural patterns, essentially 2 different people's brains used in the same frame, same body, but for different purposes. In the next room, seemingly the room we saw Issa trying to get into before Adler showed up, there's another replica overview file, this time on Commander Falk. Fun fact, Falk units are over 8 feet tall. Do with that info what you will. Anyway, the file states that she is a powerful prototype bioresonant unit, and called a nearly godlike being. Apparently she resembles the Great Nation's leaders, the Great Revolutionary and her daughter. Her bioresonance module allows her to bend the will of weaker minds and fathom their intentions and emotions, as well as manipulate objects from a distance. We don't know what bioresonance is exactly, but appears to be some sort of telepathic and telekinetic power. Hopefully we don't have to fight an infected Falk unit. I imagine that wouldn't go well. Well, speak of the devil. In the next room, we see the commander, but she seems to be either dead or in a comatose state. Interacting with her shows us that she's holding a heavy box that looks like an owl, with holes on the top either being a speaker or a microphone. And if you remember the audio player wired up to a radio, that'll be used to open this later. Next to her, we can find and read her diary.
8421A. I don't know how much longer I can go on. I do not want to live anymore is what I have become. The red eye beyond the gate showed me, no, touched me, poisoned me. It feels like my mind has been contaminated, defiled by another person's memory. I'm no longer fully myself anymore, but I've not fully become someone else either. I'm stuck here, between her and me, with half-formed dreams and recollections penetrating my brain and tainting my every action. Who is she? Who is that white-haired girl? Why do I long to see her again? Why would she curse me like this?
It seems Falk has been seeing visions of the same white-haired girl we've been seeing, but somehow she gave Falk memories of someone else, and it's been corroding Falk's sense of self. She even says it, that she's not herself anymore, but not fully someone else either, and it seems like everything happening in the facility has to do with this mysterious white-haired girl. Running back up to floor 7, and into this red hallway, we can use the shutter gate handle to open this piano save room, with music to match. In here, we can grab the OWL key and read a replica overview on Yule units, where it states that Yules are the most common and easy to manufacture replicas throughout the nation, being the backbone of the workforce, which is a nice in-universe way of explaining why they're the most common enemies. After that, we then run up to floor 6 and open the OWL door, letting us into the Yule dorms. Remember the note that was pissed off at the Yules for playing the same song over and over, saying they would destroy the tape recorder? Well, here we can see that they really did take action on that, a knife firmly lodged in there. Luckily though, they didn't smash the cassette to pieces, and combining it with the tape from earlier, we can fix it, run it down to the audio radio player, and play the audio cassette on it. This will broadcast the audio of the cassette, which had an owl eye on it, to frequency 142, letting us run to Falk's room with our radio on, to open the owl box she's holding, giving us the hummingbird key. With the hummingbird key, we can finally open this door on floor 8 and get into this office, giving us the eagle key and some stun prods. We also find another Replika Known Issues file.
Replika Known Issues 1. Previous experience with these replica models has given us insight into irregularities in their behavior that stem from the original neural patterns used for these units. Due to the sensitive nature of this information, this document should be destroyed after reading. EULR. Yules tend to form large groups and like to sing and dance, as the original neural pattern for this unit was a ballet dancer. Persona degradation can be easily prevented in this unit by making sure they have access to music, through tape players or musical instruments. Always place at least one mirror in Yule dorms, as they have a strong urge to check their own appearance at regular intervals. Yule's persona stabilizes by keeping a tidy appearance and through regular social interactions. Yules will often organize in groups of roughly 10 units and give each other themed nicknames. Arar. Even though they may seem like quiet simpletons, do not underestimate Aras. While they may not show it, they judge those who are rude or unkind harshly and will quietly share this judgment with their entire cadre. Aras get along best with Yules, who tend to be patient and friendly and have a talent for reading Aras' expressionless faces. In many facilities, Aras will construct service tunnels accessible only to them, often under floors and in walls. Unstable units may retreat into these tunnels. It is not recommended to attempt to retrieve them. Aura personas can be best stabilized by allowing them access to plants to take care of, ideally colorful flowers or trees.
So the Arar units are the ones who've been crawling out of the fucking floors to throw hands, that's cool to know, but it's also a neat fact that Arar and Yule units get along the best. There's also a replica overview file on Calibri units. This reveals that Calibri are the most capable bioresonance units, and that a single Falk unit is aided by a group of Calibri that amplify her bioresonance signals, and produce their own. It also reveals that Calibri are able to directly influence the minds of replicas and gestalts, extract info non-verbally, and communicate amongst themselves instantly in the full bandwidth of senses, being the closest recreation of a true hive mind. I'm not gonna lie, these guys would be terrifying in real life. If you lied for any reason, they'd know. If someone saw you do something that could get you into trouble, now all those units know, and they probably report to the commander, Falk, or to the administrator, Adler. And either way, you'd be fucked. Besides that, there's also a note on the desk from a Calibri unit.
Keep an eye on Adler. He's hiding something from us. There was nothing in his diary, but when I probed his mind, there were memories of an LSTR unit working at Sierpinski. There's no record of that model of replica ever being deployed here. An order for a single unit for some survey work in the mine was briefly considered, but no new orders were made due to the commander's sickness.
Honestly, not surprising that Adler's probably keeping secrets. He seems like he's got something to hide. Alright, well with all that information to think on with the Calibris and bioresonance, we head into the next room and god damn it. Alright, well I almost died. Anything good in this room? Oh, we got some shells and the postbox key. Worth it. Okay, I don't have the health or ammo to deal with this, so I gotta take my busted ass back to the save room real quick. Alright, now that I'm mostly patched up, let's head upstairs and use the postbox key. Doing that, we get the library key, but we still haven't used the eagle key, so on the way to the library, we stop and use the eagle key to open Adler's study. Here, we find his diary.
Date 84/21/6. I have been fascinated by a peculiar piece of furniture I discovered in storage. A strange box with a removable dial in the front that was confiscated from a worker some time ago. I was instantly drawn to it. though I'm not sure why. When I put my ear to the mechanism, I can hear it faintly clicking, like a clock. 84, 21, 7. Without Calibri's help, it has become much harder to coordinate the logistics cadre. If there's anything good to say about that woman, it is that she knows how to make others respect her orders, despite her minuscule stature. I want to see her today, but her room is still locked. 84, 21, 8. I had a dream tonight. Another memory of my Gestalt life, I believe. I was wearing my uniform. There was a young woman, her hair white as snow, and I was conducting some sort of test. I had a deck of cards with astronomical symbols on them, and I asked her to guess the planet on the card I was holding. 84, 21, 9. I was playing with that mechanical lockbox again, of which I am now sure is some kind of astronomical calendar, when I suddenly remembered a conversation I had with another replica when I was inspecting the mining site. However, it was clearly a model I have never seen before, some type of engineer with an orange chess piece. In my memory, she was just another member of our staff, but no such replica was ever stationed on Sierpinski. Replica memory is not the most reliable, they say, but never before have I experienced such a strange phenomenon. The little enigma of that box could only distract me for so long. All the box contained was a small notebook, of which all pages turned out to be blank. It has been miserable since our beloved commander has fallen ill. I long for her stern guidance, that overwhelming authority in which she bathes a room. More sick, making my work ever harder. How are we meant to shoulder this workload with no reinforcements? My only consolation is that our protector staff decreases. So does the workforce we oversee. While more and more replica end up in the hospital wing, Gestalt's workers seem to succumb much too fast for any attempts at treatment. Another diary filled, for no benefit but my own satisfaction. I've not ordered a new one yet, since I spent my saved ration marks on that marvelous-looking fountain pen, but I guess I'll make use of that notebook.
Seems like Adler has been having a rough go of it. Calibri hasn't been able to help him since she apparently locked herself in her room, presumably the one after her note saying not to trust Adler, and he's having dreams of what he thinks are his Gestalt life, with another mention of a white-haired girl, as well as memories of a replica he's never even seen before, presumably an Elster unit. He's been trying to hold the facility together despite everything slowly falling apart, and all he has left is writing in his notebook, and waiting for Falk to recover and wake up. Also in this room is a replica overview on Elster units. The file describes Elsters as tough and stoic loners, best suited as specialist sappers and scouts. It also says they are true survivalists, especially in a white and blue combat configuration, sporting bullet-resistant armor plating on the chest and forearms. Importantly, it notes this.
Since the original neural pattern for this unit was lost with the destruction of the central neural archive on Veneta, new LSTR units have been produced based on a decommissioned unit from the Penrose program.
Elster units are copies of a copy from the Penrose program. At the beginning of the game, we were on a crashed ship called the Penrose, but what's the program? Keep this breadcrumb of info in mind for later. On the center desk is the mechanical lockbox Adler mentioned in his diary, but it's missing the mechanism to open it. Let's open up the library and see what we can find there. Immediately, we'll find part 4 of Replika Known Issues.
Replika Known Issues 4. Previous experience with these replica models has given us insight into irregularities in their behavior that stem from the original neural patterns used for these units. Due to the sensitive nature of this information, this document should be destroyed after reading. KLBR. Great care should be given to colibris. Their neural patterns are very unstable, and their bioresonance module makes them very susceptible to influence from others. Like most bioresonant individuals, colibris will often subconsciously create an emotional feedback loop, imitating and then broadcasting the emotions of those around them, acting as a sort of amplifier. While they are trained to recognize and disengage this behavior, already unstable units can sometimes spiral into persona degradation. Due to their bioresonant connection, Neural pattern development in colibris varies less than in other models. The constant exchange of memories and emotions between units of a cadre acts as a safety net that buffers extreme changes. However, once a majority of units in a cadre degrade, they will drag remaining units down with them. Because of this, it is important to decommission colibri units instantly when they begin to degrade. For persona stabilization, colibris should have access to a well-stocked library.
Well, in this library, there is a non-corrupted Colibri unit we can talk to, but before we do that, there's the third and final part of Replika Known Issues here.
Replika Known Issues 3. Previous experience with these replica models has given us insight into irregularities in their behavior that stem from the original neural patterns used for these units. Due to the sensitive nature of this information, this document should be destroyed after reading. MNHR. This neural pattern is extremely stable. Little has to be done to keep Minas happy. They get along well with most other models thanks to their sometimes submissive, sometimes motherly personality. Unlike other models, diary keeping is not mandatory for persona stabilization. Small stuffed animals may be given as fetish objects, though those resembling cats should be avoided as they might cause resurfacing gestalt memories. ADLR. Adler units work best when left alone. They do not mix well with their own type. They will usually become very emotionally dependent on their commander. Adlers are very susceptible to bioresonant suggestion, making them fairly easy to control. However, they become bored very easily and may need new fetish objects at regular intervals for stabilization.
Interesting that the most stable pattern, Mina, is used for the most grueling, labor-intensive work. It makes sense, but I wouldn't be surprised if Mina's just put on a tough face. Adlers being emotionally dependent on their commanders, Falk units, is interesting, but is really funny when you read that they are very susceptible to bioresonant suggestion. So I wonder if on top of normally emotionally relying on their commander, does bioresonant suggestion play a part in making them that way? Or does it just keep them in line? I don't know. Either way, Adler's a simp for the 8-foot-tall robot lady, and I'm sure a lot of you probably would be too. Talking to the Colibri, she obviously doesn't know us, but her dialogue is actually pretty sad. She says the others have changed, and they don't sing in unison with her anymore. She used to be in their minds and guided everyone with them, but now she can't understand a single thought. They're together, but she's in here alone, and they won't let her in anymore. She says she can't go on like this, and she wishes she had become like the others, because then she wouldn't be alone. She stops talking to us after that. In the middle of the library is a small puzzle here where we need to guide this yellow book retriever system to grab a book. That book being the King in Yellow from the beginning, and in it is the Astrolab, which can fit into the lockbox in Adler's study. When we fit it in, we'll see these 4 symbols top to bottom: a star, a circle, 2 lines, a hexagon, and a huge white button in the center we can press. Each of these symbols correlate to the planets on the star map. The only symbol we can't move is the star at the top. So head back to the star map, see that the same star symbol is above Heimat, wait for it to reach the top, take a screenshot, picture, or just memorize where the planets are in that moment, run back and move the symbols corresponding with the planets into the right spots, and the lockbox will open, letting us pick up the administrator's key, along with another diary from Adler, filled with entries with the same date over and over again. Each entry showing us that Adler isn't as stable as he'd have you believe.
Date 84/21-D. Started yet another new diary. How time flies. The work is dull and monotonous as ever in Sierpinski, but a bright light illuminates my day. Today I was invited to a meeting by Commander Falk, and she was as magnificent as ever. Another day passes. During my meeting with the commander today, I felt a strange sensation of familiarity as I sat with her. Sadly, our meeting was interrupted by an unexpected power outage. I've been feeling strangely paranoid these days. Never before have I felt so strongly the sensation of déjà vu as I have these past few days. When I checked the pages of my diary today, I noticed that for some inexplicable reason, I seem to have dated my previous entries with today's date. What an embarrassing mistake. Every day feels a bit like I've lived it before, and even stronger the sensation that something is somehow just slightly out of place. Why is my diary filled with entries I cannot recall writing? Why are they all dated to today? Has the loss of my beloved commander finally gotten to my mind? Am I going insane? I fear what will happen to me if anyone finds out. Am I alone in this? If they discover my notes, I'll be decommissioned too. Something is wrong. I can feel it. Is this really madness? When I read the pages of my diary, I recall events that never happened, a yesterday that never was. It feels as real as the one I actually experienced. This cannot merely be a defect of my mind. It feels as though, in this room, I peer into another version of reality. How? I do not know. But perhaps I, too, have become sick like the others, without realizing. But I will not succumb. A slow accumulation of reproduction errors, a gradual corruption of information, a story misremembered, slowly morphing with each retelling, like genetic material, mutating and evolving, like the replica mind, copied over and over from an aging template. I do not know, but I will find out. The answers lie below. I can feel it. Someone or something calls me from there, in the mine.
Well, with the knowledge that Adler's slowly losing his mind, let's take the administrator key and just beeline it to the mineshaft elevator.
I know you're here. I've done this countless times before. You don't belong here.
We're down in the mine now. We don't have a map to go by, but this area is pretty linear. We'll find floodlights and high-power mining lasers down here, like the mine boss fight had, and we'll also find coils of monofiber with a warning label telling us it'll effortlessly cut through limbs and equipment in an instant, but hinting to us to use our flashlight with the "only handle in brightly lit places" line. Funny I mentioned the Mina boss fight, because we find an uncorrupted Mina unit down here. She introduces herself as Bayo, her name in the dialogue box changing to match, and she says that if we're down here, we're probably looking for someone. She'd help, but one of her hydraulics failed and she can't move, saying she's done for and to leave her here. And if you keep talking with her, she says some of the most depressing lines about replicas in the whole game. She thanks you for talking to her, hoping you find what you're looking for, and stops talking after that. Further down, we'll walk into a save room with a new weapon for us, a flare gun. If you shoot any enemy and damage them with the flare gun, they'll fall to the floor and eventually die, but because it's a flare, they burn the body, keeping the enemy permanently dead. Later on, you'll also get grenades for it, which deal massive damage and are great for taking out groups of enemies. We also find Alina Sio's last diary entry. It states that everyone has disappeared, and she found no trace of Elster, as if she'd never been there. Any protectors that are left have something wrong with them, one spotting Alina earlier and letting out a monstrous scream as it chased after her. I'm like 99% sure that Alina is already dead, but we came this far, we might as well keep going. Leaving the save room, we take a lift down further into the mines. There's a lot of enemies in this big open room here, and after dealing with most of them and heading through the door on the left, we come to a room full of monofiber all over. There's some ammo on the other side of this room, but more importantly, there's an injured Star comforting a crying Yule, surrounded by dead Yules. And I'm just gonna let the dialogue speak for itself here. Running back to the previous room and going up, we'll come into a room with 2 star units and a Mina unit. There's a hatch in the center with a button. Best strategy for this room? Press the button, run and kite the enemies until the hatch is open, don't waste ammo here, and then jump down the hatch once it's finally opened. We've landed in the area where Adler tried to confront Issa. Both doors on either side are broken, so the only way forward is down. But upon jumping into the hole, we see a flash of Alina, before our perspective shifts once again. This time we're on a dark beach, light barely creeping over the mountains, notes leading us like a breadcrumb trail.
Along the shore, the cloud waves break, the twin suns sink, the shadows lengthen. The night where black stars rise, and strange moons circle through the skies, but stranger still. Song of unsung, as tears unshed shall dry and die. Calls me in a sea of flesh. We will become one, but I can never go back to being me.
At the end of the trail in a small cave, the book, The King in Yellow, sits just out of reach. With nothing else to do, we can try to start walking back the way we came, only for it to end abruptly. We take back control of Elster, now in a room full of ankle-high water and dead replicas all around us. Heading into the next room, seemingly a morgue, there's replica bodies laying on the slabs, and then going into the room above, we'll find a red note about offerings to the dead, and ancestral tablets lined up on the wall, but the names can't be read due to wear. Heading back down and to the left, we'll immediately notice that the doors and room connections no longer make sense. We entered a door through the left side of the screen, which would usually have us enter the next room from the right side, but here it doesn't work like that. While doors connecting to certain rooms will stay the same, it doesn't make sense how the doors connect. Anyway, walking into this room and fighting off 2 Yules, and finding a wooden nesting doll that I didn't have room for, we head up to find another red note titled Warnings. This note is heavily worn down, but whatever is beyond it is still dangerous and, quote, repulsive. It also says that when something within is killed, a path will open here. So we just gotta kill something and we'll find a door here next time around? Sounds easy enough. Going down the ladder before that note takes us to another room with 2 Yules in it. I got one of them before running out of ammo and rushing to the next room on the right. which luckily took me to a save room. I still had no ammo though. Going back to that middle room and headed up, we come to a hole of, flesh. Before checking that, if we head to the right here, we'll come to this room, which has a wedding ring in it. We don't know what this is for yet, so we'll just stash it away for now. On the table of this room is a microphone hooked up to this keypad sealed behind glass. I didn't know this my first playthrough, but turning on and tuning your radio to frequencies with static consistent notes like this will give you a code with the symbol. The symbol correlates to one of these doors. We'll have seen 2 of them by now, but go through and take a picture of each keypad code and what symbol goes with them. I didn't do this on my first time playing the game. I didn't know that's what this was for, and I somehow brute forced my way through each keypad door. Yeah, don't make my mistake. Back to the flesh hole, and with nowhere else to go, we jump down. So this is the Chimera boss fight. Usually you'd run around and kite it around these pillars, shooting at it until Issa loads her rifle and kills it. Now normally shooting the Chimera will decrease the time it takes for Issa to load the rifle, and walking around increases it. But since I had no ammo, I was stuck running around for dear life while Issa took her sweet fucking time to load it up and fire, finally killing it. Issa, for the love of God, load. It's not that hard. There's like 1, maybe 2 bullets. Fucking shoot it. Shoot it. Help me! Issa is unconscious, but we've brought her to safety. We'll just have to look around for a means of waking her up or treating any injuries. There are some flares and pistol ammo in this room as well, so don't forget to grab those. At the top of this room is one of those keypad doors. Having the code, I unlocked it for later. If we go through the door below, we'll come back to the Chimera boss room. Its body's still there, albeit for me it was hard to see through this pillar. There's nothing of note or use in this room though. The door on the right will take us to this flesh hall with cages stacked around at random, with a Yule and a new enemy, the corrupted Storch unit. The Storch unit is mutated beyond recognition, having no arms and a seeming beak-like growth for a head. And it will use that to attack you once you're in range, so make sure to take these guys out and use flares on them to keep them dead, since you'll probably be trudging through this room a bit during your time in Nowhere. That's something I should mention as well. When you save here, it's called Nowhere, being a reference to Silent Hill 1, which I unfortunately haven't played myself. The environment here reeks of rusted metal decay and an overgrowth of flesh, with more enemies than ever before. For example, I unlocked this keypad door here. There are 3 enemies on screen, but there's more just below, so I noped the fuck out of there. Eventually I loop back around to where that warning note was, but now there is a door leading to this room, a book on the table titled The Dreamer. A prison from which the only escape is death. Deep below, the dreamer floats in the sea of flesh, the red-eye birthing a new world from their dream for eternity, and each time the dreamer turns over in their sleep, the world turns over too, until only flesh remains. There's also a small bottle here, but I didn't have the inventory space to grab it at the moment, so let's stop at the save room, drop off some items, and then open this keypad door. Through this room is a long catwalk over a lot of flesh, and 2 enemy Yule stalking around. After taking them out and getting to the next room, we find an important puzzle, the Empress Hand. On a chair to the left after walking in is a weird note that once you get it down and read it properly, it states this. On the first day she was crowned. On the longest day, nothing was done. On the next day, she was wed. On the last day, she took her life. Those lines have to do with different rings we can pick up. The ring corresponding with the event in the note, and using where that was said in the note, we can figure out what finger takes what ring. The first day is the index finger or pointer finger, the longest day is the middle finger, the day after she was wed is the ring finger, and the last day is the pinky finger. The only one we currently have is the wedding ring, which will go on the ring finger, although somehow in this playthrough, despite doing this puzzle dozens of times, I somehow got the fingers backward in my head, and it caused me a bit of confusion later on. But we'll get to that eventually. Circling back around, I grabbed the small bottle from the dreamer room and grabbed this wooden nesting doll as well. Inspecting the small bottle in our inventory says it's probably some sort of smelling salts, which are used to restore consciousness to people, so let's bring it over to Issa. Waking her up, she thanks us, asking if we found who we're looking for yet, and also gives us the rifle. The rifle is awesome, one-shotting nearly every enemy in the game, and can fire twice before reloading, obvious trade-off being that the ammo is rarer than other weapons. After leaving the room and coming back, she'll be gone without a trace, so we'll trudge on without her. A couple of rooms away, we pick up the Regent's Ring for the Empress Hand puzzle and grab a rusted key and the plate of... fuck, not enough space, hang on. Okay, now we can pick up the Plate of Flesh. We already have the Plate of Eternity in our box, and with the Plate of Flesh, we can assume there's more to get. Alright, we're geared up and armed to the teeth, let's take on that room full of enemies now. So fun fact with the Mina unit, if you shoot a flare into her face when it opens up, it does a lot of damage over time, potentially one-shotting them. Walking through the door to the right, we get visually assaulted by a Calibri unit, but that's paired with a Storch and a Yule in this hallway, so I quickly note the fuck out of there, and then went through the door on the left and forgot that this room also has a group of enemies in it that I was not prepared for. I decided to take on the right real fast, tuning to Calibri's frequency while taking out the Storch, then running from the Yule once the Calibri finally died. Through this door on the left, we come into a study of some kind, with Alina's Diary 4 on the table. She sounds completely out of it in this note, wondering how long she's been down here and where here even is. Here her memory is blurry, her hair is slowly turning white, and she remembers her name and life, but she also remembers a different name and a different life. The line between Alina and her are blurring the longer she's here. There's some items on the table with the note, but my inventory was once again full. Running back and past the Yule unit, we can finally come across our ultimate goal for this section. This big door with 6 slots for different plates. We have Eternity and Flesh, but there's still 4 more to get, so let's get to it. Real quick though, I have to reset my game because I've encountered the one glitch that I've had happen in multiple playthroughs, a sound effect from the Mina unit. I think it's when the faceplate opens up and bleeds everywhere. That sound effect keeps playing. On loop. It's not a huge deal, and it doesn't happen often, but the only way to fix it is to save and reset the game. I wouldn't be opposed to a quick patch job getting rid of this. Alright, with the game reset and that fixed, we sort our inventory in the box and take the Regent's Ring to the Empress Hand, which in this footage I put on the wildly wrong finger, but again, we'll fix that later. We then take the rusted key to unlock this door. This room is a table with the final wooden nesting doll, some revolver ammo, and some grenade shells for our flare gun. There's also this keypad door that I quickly unlock and run straight into a monofiber maze, this time full of Yule units who meet the business end of my shotgun, and some Aura units that come crawling out of the floor. At the center of the maze, we grab the Plate of Sacrifice and catch a few hits on the way out. After dropping off the Eternity, Sacrifice, and Flesh plates in the big door, and drive by shooting this Yule, we can run back to that study to pick up incense and grenade shells from the table. I then head back to the save room Issa used to be in and head through the keypad door I unlocked earlier, and once again I shoot through 2 more Yules, and we come into this room. The Plate of Balance here will, once taken, cause these golden pincer things to come down and block our path, which is what the complete nesting doll is for, effectively pulling an Indiana Jones without a boulder to run away from this time. I also ran back to the ancestral plates from the beginning, and using the incense on it, it opens this box giving me the Plate of Love. Right after we run back to the dark room full of enemies. I use some grenades around to take them out, nearly dying in the process, but once all the enemies are dead, we can grab the Serpent Ring, the final ring needed to solve the Empress Hand puzzle. Running back to the Emperor's hand, and after realizing that I'm dumb as fuck and rearranging the rings to the right fingers, the other hand moves away and we pick up the Plate of Knowledge. I'm sure that's fine. They're fine. Now with all plates, we head back, slot them in, and come to a fleshy recreation of the pit from the very start of the game. Nowhere to go but up the stairs this time.
It's impossible to move on. I've been here so many times, but I've never returned. The commander never spoke about what she saw out there. I'm sure whatever it was what made her fall sick. Something about her changed when she returned. She was no longer our beloved leader, Falk. What awaits beyond the threshold?
It doesn't matter. Some important details about that cutscene. When the voice calls for Alina Co, only Alina in this line of girls turns her head in response. When it calls for Elster, all the different Elster units turn, and then it calls to Ariane Young, in which everyone in that line, including Alina, turns in response. It's hard to make out, but you can see the white-haired girl who we've assumed to be Ariane, but also, at the front of that line, you can barely make out Commander Falk. Remember this detail for later. Now, this isn't the end. When we're taken back to the main menu, we can see the eyes change to match our seemingly dead Elster. With nothing else to do, we begin again. We're back on the Penrose, seemingly before the crash from the beginning of the game. We're completely safe here, and it acts as a nice reprieve from the literal flesh hell we just went through. There's even a cute little Calibri drawing here, too. In this room, we can see the status monitor confirming we're in flight, and that Ariane Young is on the ship, in personnel. Also in this room is a sealed envelope stating it's classified replica information. For Gestalt officer eyes only. Elster remarks she isn't allowed to open it, since it probably contains classified info about her. We open it anyway.
Replica known issues, Penrose program. Previous experience with these replica models has given us insight into irregularities in their behavior that stem from the original neural patterns used for these units. Due to the sensitive nature of this information, this document should be destroyed after reading. LSTR. Elster units were chosen for the Penrose program for their adaptability and reliability under long-term isolation conditions. Stoic and reserved, Elster units have a relatively stable neural pattern. It is best for you to leave it alone and interact with the Elster unit as little as possible. Elster's neural pattern was a soldier of Venetian origin, so their needs are basic. Avoid talking to the Elster unit about the war. Penrose vessels are fitted with a special calibration pod which may help with persona stabilization. To avoid resurfacing of Gestalt memories, do not show or give the Elster unit photographs, especially of soldiers during the war. Do not show the Elster unit movies or let it listen to music. Do not try to befriend the Elster unit.
Since this was unopened, I doubt Ariane knew any of this, and likely broke all of these rules. In the same room is an officer's note from Ariane, saying she adjusted the ship's internal clock to run slightly slower, simulating what she believes is the length of a day on Veneta. She wonders if Elster will notice the difference, since Ariane is sure she's Venetan, pronouncing ship the same way Issa and Erica used to. She ends the note saying that when Elster speaks, it makes her dream of the ocean, wondering if she'll ever get to visit something like it on a distant world. In the medical wing, we find a note titled Penrose Briefing Phase 2.
By our calculations, 1500 cycles of mission time will have passed when you receive this message. Congratulations, comrade. By now you should have fully become acclimatized to your new life on board your ship. As you approach the Oort Cloud, your search for New World will begin. Utilizing the long-range sensors, you will scout for valuable resources, habitable worlds, or signs of alien life. Remember to rely on your replica to assist you in maintaining your vessel. We all wish you great success in your mission.
Okay, so 1500 cycles. That's 1500 days. That's a little over 4 years in space. In one small ship, with one other person. I would go insane by this point, man. Also, they're reaching the Oort Cloud by the time they get this transmission. The Oort Cloud is like a big bubble around our solar system, made up of icy, comet-like objects, and is extremely far away. How does a return trip from beyond that cloud work exactly? I guess we'll find out later. Also in the medical bay is another document that says you should not eat your replica to survive, even in terrible circumstances, since it can cause various health problems when ingested. It may look and taste like ordinary flesh, but bioengineered tissue may cause more harm than good when eaten in an emergency situation. Oxidant fluid may look like blood, but is indigestible to gestalts. It also states that you should keep the replica operational because it has greater survivability. Jesus Christ, dude. What constitutes an emergency situation? Hitting an asteroid or a comet or something? Maybe crash landing on a planet you didn't know was there and somehow sensors didn't pick up? I don't know, and quite frankly, I don't know if I want to find out. While going through our maintenance checklist, including checking the cryopod from the beginning of the game, just now in a better state, we find a side room with a painting that Ariane has been working on, a serene coastline. Looks kind of familiar. There's also a cute note here from Ariane where she was running out of ochre paint, and Elster laughed at her when she told her. She also says she hasn't read a bunch of the manuals she was given, most of them being boring technical ones anyway. She seems to wish they could have given her more films to watch instead. Half of them are war films that Elster doesn't like, and the other half are propaganda dramas. Last thing to check is the cockpit. Everything's functioning properly, and we can sit and admire space through the glass for a bit. After checking everything off on the maintenance checklist, we can finally relax and visit Ariane. Remember how the Replika issues document said not to befriend the Elster unit? It seems Ariane did more than just befriend her. We've repaired ourselves, albeit in a pretty gruesome way, scavenging parts off another us. but it's just a means to an end. We've got to keep going. The note in the hall changed, with another in the room we entered the Penrose from. With nowhere else to go, we find a hole in the last room. Our perspective shifts again. We're back on the beach, more notes leading us like breadcrumbs to our destination again.
Those who sing the same song have heard it in their dreams. A dark tone at the edge of hearing, a silent voice whispering to my heart. Come join us. Together we will be eternal. There is no escape. We will be one. But I fear the dark sea that will swallow me. Something old, far older than humanity, sleeps deep below the ground. Those of us who can hear its call in the night, an invitation, an ocean of memories where I ends and we begin. Great holes secretly are digged where the earth's pores ought to suffice, and things have learnt to walk that ought to crawl. We should have never left the primordial soup. Only through death can I escape the call of the one who rules above all life.
We wake up in Sierpinski, in the same bathroom from the beginning of the game. But it's all wrong. Flesh spreads out, seemingly trying to engulf everything with a sickly veil of rot. Flies buzz around in the air, notes we've read before are corrupted, and whole rooms have been consumed and blocked off by pulsing masses of flesh. Despite all of this, someone still watches on the security cameras above. Running into the classroom from the beginning, the chalkboard says, "You've been here before." The wall safe from the beginning is here as well, with the same code to open it, 204512, getting us the classroom key again. Also be sure to grab these grenade shells on your way out. Fighting through the flesh-infested halls, missing a grenade shot on this Storch and Stars, then blowing up 2 of them before nearly dying to the last, we use the classroom key once again to open the door deeper in, only this time it leads to yet another hole to jump down, pulsating flesh all around.
You've changed. It's like everything was taken apart. Put back together
by someone who doesn't understand how it works. I have become whole again.
I wear no mask.
And I hate everything!
Despite the fact the game literally just told us we're in Rotfront, we can see on this wall that we're in Rotfront Sector C, where Ariane grew up. This wall is also our ultimate goal of the area, showing there's a small hole we can look through that seems to be the room from the beginning of the game. There's rings here depicting phases of the moon, but we don't know what each one should be, and Rotfront is missing a dial ring that we need to set its moon phase. Through the door at the top left, we come to a hallway of enemies. Quickly, we duck into this room with a computer on it. There's also a submachine gun on the table. There's an email here we can read, which gives us some info about the area. This email seems to belong to a Calibri unit who was the block warden of this area. The first email confirming the requisition for the SMG, which is now ours. The next email is from Camilla Young, saying that the locksmith said it'll take at least a period until the replacement key is done for the photo store, and that her niece, Ariane, has the only other key, but she's still at the hospital. Another email from another Replika, a higher ranking one than our blockwork Calibri, warns of rumors that an Imperial spy is active in the area, and that a Protector Special Operations Unit was dispatched from Aeon HQ on Heimat and should arrive to investigate in 6 to 12 cycles, ending the email stating that if they're successful in their investigation, it will not reflect well on our blockward's record. The next email is a reminder that the seasonal performance review on our Calibri is happening soon, and it will determine if they're going to be marked for replacement. Pretty dark if you think about it. The next email from Anja, might be pronounced Anya, Ito, Isa and Erica's mother, says that they don't have a spare key for the front door, but that the blockwart can use the back entrance to get into the store. But it's secured with a keypad and the code is her daughter's birthday, noting they were born on Veneta and to check the last 6 digits of their PKZ numbers. We'll have to keep a lookout for that info. The last email here is a response to the Calibri blockwart asking to be relocated, being completely denied. It seems like this blockwart knew they were going to be marked for replacement and asked out of desperation to avoid that, only to be told no and presumably got scrapped and replaced. We can download all of this to our Replika memory to look back at whenever we need. Through the next door is our primary save room in Rotfront, complimentary repair patches and flares to go with it. Quick tip, grab 3 flares, kill these enemies outside the save room, and burn them all. You'll be running through this hall a lot, so this will save you some ammo, health, and time. The room we can go into next to the computer room has various ammo in it, but also 2 ARA units who crawl out of the floor and jump you. Clear to the left is a room with a painting of the Isle of the Dead, but there's a playing card stuck in it. We can't get the card out without some paint thinner or something, so we'll be back. The top leftmost door has a ladder to the top floor, which walking into that hallway we take out a couple of enemies, finding a door with blood seeping from beneath it. It's locked, labeled room 512. Running to the top right, using a grenade shell to take these guys out, we come into a room full of ammo, repair patches, and a valve we can pick up. There's also a newspaper here talking about the rumor of an Imperial spy. Going through the doors south of the hallway, we come to a dark room full of enemies once again. Taking them out, we find a stolen document. This document is marked as classified info for Replika Technician Gestalt Eyes only. Reading it, we learn that exemplary citizens of the nation are permanently, cryogenically preserved in the neural archives, becoming neural patterns for new replica models, and the original Gestalt is erased from records and public memory. During production, when bioresonant technicians copy that neural pattern to a new unit, a majority of memories are altered and suppressed, and while the resulting replica maintains the skills and personality of the original Gestalt, it won't be able to recall specific events from its Gestalt life, under normal circumstances, since we read all those replica issue files back in Act 1. The file then goes on to say that even the best maintained replica will eventually be exposed to something that causes Gestalt memories to resurface, and while units degraded this way pose no danger, they'll eventually lose many advantages over Gestalt workers, essentially meaning that they'll remember who they are as an individual and their productivity will decrease because they'll realize that they've been lied to, that they aren't some robot off a line, and that they're a copy of an original working in a nation that sees them as replaceable. That would give anyone an existential crisis and lose the will to work. But don't worry, command units use bioresonance to surveil units under their command and will quickly decommission them the moment that happens. And when ammo is rationed or low, alternative ways of decommissioning can be deployed. This file just reinforces how much it sucks to be a replica. The moment you remember anything about your life before becoming essentially a robot slave, you will be taken out. Individuality? Identity? Can't have that in my workforce. This file just leads my mind back to Bayo, the Mina unit stuck in the mines. Moving on from that depressing note, we also pick up a developing tank we'll need later. Running back downstairs to the main room and heading through the top right door, we can use the valve to turn off the fire. Through the top door past that fire, we pick up some revolver ammo and a blue diskette. Taking the blue diskette back to the computer, we read a text file that explains that due to power rationing, only a limited number of antennas in the grid are powered at a time. To figure out which ones are powered, use the antenna program to triangulate the correct antenna. Note that the antenna where the test signal can be heard on both dishes, then use the transmit program to enter the antenna number and select the correct sound file to broadcast. That was way too many times saying antenna, holy shit. Using that as a rough guide and opening the antenna program, we set our radio to 125 and start aligning the dishes, figuring out the only powered antenna is 43. Going to the transmit program, we enter it in, and begin transmitting Magpie, which we'll need to tune back into later on. Solving it now just saves us some time down the road. After that, we head to the main area again. Going through the lower right door, in this hall we take out a star unit and a couple of Yules. The two doors on the right can only be opened from the other side, and through the door to the left of where we came in takes us to a back area with a keypad door, the keypad having Ito marked on it. We can't open this now since we don't know Issa and Erica's birthday, but we'll come back to it later. Heading back through where we turn the fire off, but taking a right instead, we come into this locker room with flesh growths on the floor. Here we pick up acetone, essentially a paint thinner. We take this back to the painting with the card, use it, and pick up the lover's card, though we're not sure what to do with it yet. After you pick up that card and leave the hallway with the door to that room, it'll be blocked off by a mass of flesh upon returning, making that room inaccessible for the rest of the game. So make sure you pick up any items in a room with a card in it before grabbing said card. Back upstairs, past the dark room and taking out a Yule and a star, we head up into this hallway where two auras jump us and quickly meet the business end of my revolver. We unlock a door that gives us a shortcut through the second floor, and walk into this hospital room that has a box on the table. This box has a Magpie symbol and a speaker on it. So switching on our radio real fast to the Magpie transmission we did earlier, we open the box and get the store key and the... fuck. Excuse me for a moment. Alright, we get the star card. Also in this room is a note from Ariane's teacher. Teacher's evaluation, Ariane Young. The girl, without a doubt, is remarkably odd, certainly due to her being raised solely by her mother, rather than by a community of good people overseen by a block warden, as is normal these days. Her obsession with paintings, music, and other such nonsense was clearly implanted during her time living in the mountains on that desolate radio outpost. And surely her friendship with those Venedan-born Ito sisters also exposed her to some of the questionable literature that is illegally sold in their parents' bookstore. She does not seem to understand that these distractions are no longer acceptable now that she must partake in the society of our nation like anyone else. Personally, I can only hope military service will beat those frivolous ideas out of her in a way that this school has failed to do so far. This note shows that Ariane was an outcast. She was raised by her mother to enjoy art like paintings, music, and literature. But the nation doesn't hold cultural value in that, considering it a waste of time. Frivolous ideas. We saw in a cutscene that Ariane was bullied by classmates growing up, only being friends with the Ito sisters who somewhat understood, since according to the document, they've been exposed to literature deemed illegal by the nation. But besides them, Ariane must have been incredibly lonely and depressed, since she valued things that the nation she grew up and lived in didn't, trying to break her down and mold her into what they deemed an exemplary citizen. Exploring past the fleshy floored locker room, we come to a broken meat grinder, jumping through to the floor below. In this cafeteria, we find the tower card. We also find a newspaper stating that ration shipments to Veneta have been disrupted by Imperial forces, causing millions of Yusan citizens to starve for another month as Imperial missile frigates in Katesh orbit critically damaged a humanitarian convoy on the way to Veneta. The blockade will continue to block free travel between Veneta, Rotfront, and Heimat for another 8 seasons, leaving troops on Veneta stranded with minimal support. Paper ends by saying the convoys will continue to be sent despite the blockade. So funny thing, I've barely mentioned the Empire and the Imperial fleet so far, briefly mentioning them earlier when talking about the star map back in Act 1. The Yusan nation is, or was, at war with the Empire. There's a lot of deeper lore behind the nation and the Empire, and this video is long enough as it is, so I encourage you to do some research if you're interested. The Signalis wiki has some pretty comprehensive articles about them. Stepping out of the cafeteria and into the subway waiting area, we've got a Colibri to deal with on top of 2 Yules and a star. And after dealing with them, we can head through the top right door to a save room, picking up the patient key, which is marked 512, and just enjoying a brief moment of reprieve from all that chaos. Alright, reprieve over, heading back out using the store key on the top left door, tasing a bitch who dared to get back up. We walk into the photo store and get developer fluid, combining it with the developing tank to get a picture of a QR code. If this was real life, this would just be the most elaborate rickroll ever. We also find this photo titled People's Army 5th Venetan Infantry Division Unit 12. It has a list of different names, the notable ones being Alina Sio and Lilith Ito. Alina Sio is the one who we were looking for in the beginning of the game, but we haven't heard of Lilith before. She's obviously related to Issa and Erica, but we don't know how. Leaving the photo store and going through the left, we come to another hallway segment. We deal with the enemies, and keep running to the left, unlocking this ladder shortcut back down here if we need. We then double back and run into this room, seemingly being a PO mailbox room, and using the QR code photo, we open one and get the Sun card, along with a note titled Leaving.
I have been found out. I'm sure the white-haired girl working at the photo store in Sector C is bioresonant. Be careful. They don't pay me enough to take any more risks. I'm on the next ship to Kitez tomorrow. Meet me at the docks in Sector N if you want to bail too. Son.
So it seems there was a spy here, but he bailed after being found out. He also seemed to believe that Ariane is bioresonant, and thinking about it further, we read a diary entry from Adler where he dreamed he was conducting a test on a white-haired girl, Ariane, involving cards with symbols on them, asking what planet was on the card he was holding. Maybe Sun didn't escape, but was possibly captured and made to be the template for Adler, but that's just a theory, and is really only based on 2 notes. Anyway, new card in hand, we head back to this floor's safe room, and heading up the ladder in the back, there's this alley with some enemies, 2 Yules and an Ara that crawls out from below the dumpster. All that's back here is a shortcut door we can unlock, and a note titled The Red Eye.
There exists a strange folklorish idea in many sectors of Rotfront related to pareidolia, the tendency to see meaningful images and random patterns, like seeing a face in an ink blot or letters in a smudge of dirt. It is well known that the so-called red eye is simply an anticyclonic storm produced by a high-pressure region in the atmosphere of Rotfront's planet. Yet for some of the early settlers of Rotfront, this natural phenomenon became symbolic of their struggle and way of life. That red spot in the sky became a perfect metaphor for the ever-present surveillance by the Protectors and the tight grip of the central government on Heimat. Even today, the idea of an unblinking, watchful eye observing their every move still resonates strongly with the people here. During the celebration of Monfest at the end of each season, adult citizens will sometimes give students ration marks that have been dipped in red paint. Officially, the red paint is said to represent the blood of those who died in the revolution, but the red coins share an eerie resemblance to that red eye. Or is this just pareidolia too? Should you ever receive one of these red eye ration marks, remember to clean off the paint with acetone or a similar paint thinner. Spending or regifting paint-covered coins is considered to bring bad luck.
That shortcut door leads us back to the Ito bookstore, but we still don't know how to get in there, so we head back and climb up the ladder again, coming to an apartment where we have to fend off a Colibri, a Storage, and a Yule all at the same time, in a much smaller area than normal. All that's in here is some stun prods and a repair spray. Leaving the apartment, we immediately have to take out a Yule and 2 stars, but after doing that, we get a break from back-to-back combat by walking into this study. There's a safe here with a 4-letter combination needed to unlock it. The only other interactable things in this room are this note about bioresonance technology and this glass case of 4 butterflies. If you click on it, it's labeled pareidolia. Combined with that note from the alley, we know pareidolia to be seeing meaningful images in random patterns. So let's take a closer look at the patterns on the butterfly wings, left to right. First one, we can make out an A on the lower wing. On the second one, we can make out an E on both. Third is an O on the lower wing, and the final one has an N on the lower wings as well, giving us the code AON for the safe. Before I put that in though, I just need to say this was the one puzzle that completely and utterly stumped me the first time I played. I remember doing everything else in Rotfront, circling back around the entire map multiple times thinking I'd missed a note or something, only to look it up and go, God damn it. To be fair to the game and the devs, they gave me the note mentioning pareidolia, and I appreciate them not obviously spelling it out for me, but goddamn, I felt like the biggest dumbass when learning the solution and running back to the butterflies only to see the letters. I think putting the red eye note in this room may have helped with that, or putting it in the hallway outside, but either way, we grabbed the moon card. The note on the table called Bioresonance Technology and its Limitations has some interesting information, like how climaforming and induced gravity is impossible without bioresonance, and that progress in the development of electronics and microprocessors has stagnated for almost a century due to the primary focus on new ways to utilize bioresonance. The most fucked up thing we learn here is that when neural patterns are copied to a replica brain, it replaces a pre-existing pattern in the replica, meaning that when a replica is made, they aren't just a blank or empty template. There's a mind in there, but it gets overwritten by someone else's pre-existing pattern. Whoever that replica could have been, what they could have achieved, what kind of person they'd strive to be, gets overwritten to be an obedient machine to a nation that would swiftly replace them the moment they step out of line or go below efficiency levels. With that grim note out of the way, walking into the only other accessible room in this hall, we grab a red diskette for the computer on the main floor and head back to the closest save room and sort our inventory. Back at the PC and inserting the red diskette, we gain access to the medical data bank of nearly everyone in Rotfront, including Issa, Erica, and Ariane. If you remember, we need the last 6 digits of Issa or Erica's PKZ numbers for the keypad to their bookshop. So, looking at the top, we can see the code is 560524. One thing that's funny is Erica's medical history is pretty short, only mentioning a sprained ankle, while Issa has fractures and lacerations mentioned, on top of the doctor's note saying she was treated regularly for small lesions, and that she's very prone to accidents. Ariane's file shows she has insomnia, bruising, and premature acrometrichia, which is the progressive loss of hair pigmentation, hence why her hair is white. Curiously though, the doctor's notes on her are removed. Once we've transferred the medical data to our replica memory, we can run upstairs to open room 512 with the patient key. Once we're in, we come to a room mostly overtaken by flesh. A filing cabinet with a book and a desk are the only things left to interact with. The book is titled Dream Diary.
6th night. I dreamt I was an imperial farmer. I embraced my lover in the red deserts of Katesh when a storm consumed us, the sand grinding us down until nothing remained. 13th night. I was a worker in the mines of Lang, when I was consumed by a shapeless mass of flesh, my flesh joining with the flesh of many others, until only my bones remained. My mind joined with the collective of flesh which persists beyond death. 16th night. As a storm raged in the sky, I fell from a ruined skyscraper on Veneta, but I never reached the ocean below. I kept falling when suddenly lightning struck the building and I woke up. 18th night. I was floating in the sunless sea below the ice of Rotfront when I saw a large creature move in the darkness below me in the moon's dark core. 19th night. I saw a burning eye in the sky above the clouds of beyond. I was walking through the floating imperial palace when the gaze of the sun-like iris burned my body to ashes.
Interacting with the table, we can see a slot for the cards we've been picking up. Once we have all 6, we need to figure out what card matches to what planet, the Dream Diary being our loose guide on figuring that out. Going through them with the cards we have now, I can explain them. Kitesh's card is the Lovers, since the first entry depicts the dreamer as an imperial farmer embracing their lover in the red deserts of Kitesh, much like the card depicts. This one's pretty easy. Buyan's card is the Sun, since the 5th entry mentions a sun-like iris in the sky above the clouds of Beyond. Veneta's card is the Tower, since the 3rd entry has the dreamer falling from a ruined skyscraper on Veneta, lightning striking the building much like the card's art. Rotfront's card is the Moon, the 4th entry mentioning a large creature moving in the dark, sunless sea below them in the moon of Rotfront's dark core. Heimat isn't mentioned, and we don't have Lang's card yet, but the Star card doesn't really fit the description that clearly mentions Lang, so we can easily assume the Star is Heimat's card, Small note here, but somehow I got the Star and the Moon card reversed, which you'll be able to see on the screen now. Just ignore that. Next time you see it, the cards will be swapped to the rightful spots. There's only one spot left to check for a card, the Ito Bookshop. Putting in the code to the back entryway, we come into a dark storage room, shelves full of books, with only one book here being interactable, titled The Song of the Gods.
Possession and distribution of this publication is prohibited and punishable by the 4th Cultural Protection Act. There exists a connection between all of us that few are fully aware of, a song that we all dance to but few can hear. This deep vibration of the cosmos cannot just be heard and felt. We all resonate in harmony with it, shaping it, deforming it around us. Those select few who can consciously perceive it often fear it. Too oppressive is the sound of the stars, too invasive the noise of the unaware around them, polluting the song with their fickle emotions. But every once in a while, some are born that can not only hear and play this music of the worlds, but who can conduct it, gifted individuals capable of manipulating the essence of the world around them. Many believe that the Grand Empress is such a being. Her immense will bent humanity into the Empire of Yusan and lifted us to the stars. It was her power that imbued life into the first of the machine servants that now carry the weight of the Empire on their carbon steel backs.
This book seems to be a sort of explanation of what bioresonance is, some sort of song that everyone is connected by, but few can perceive, and even fewer who can conduct and manipulate it to their will. Considering this book is banned, and the only bioresonant people publicly known about are replicas, it's safe to say that bioresonant gestalts are kept a secret, and knowing the nation, that secret is very well guarded. Issa never found Erica, and considering the hell she endured, probably spent the last ounce of willpower and strength she had left. She couldn't go on, and gave up, melting away. Among a book on Prometheus and another book about bioresonance and synchronicity, phenomena that are meaningfully related but have no causal connection, there's a shrine dedicated to Issa and Erica here, the death card between their pictures. Between Erica's picture being blotted out here, corrupted on her medical record, and Issa never finding a trace of her, I believe Erica died. In what way, I don't know, but I think she was already dead before the events of the game, and Issa either didn't know or was in denial of that fact. I assume that last they talked or saw each other, they had a fight or a disagreement of some sort, hence the note at the beginning of the game where she says, "If you find this note, despite everything that's happened, I've come to look for you." But now, finally back home in the bookstore they grew up in, Issa is confronted with her sister's death. She's not here anymore. And Issa, knowing she won't be able to see her sister again, to make up, talk it out in some way, apologizes. Not to us, not to Elster, but to her sister. The last words before the cutscene ends being, "Forgive me." Last card in hand, we begin heading back to the Dream Diary puzzle. On our way there, we can find that all the flesh overgrowth blocking off rooms that had the cards in them has overtaken the top floor, causing the glass above the center room to shatter, dropping the dial ring and allowing us to finally solve the moon phases puzzle. Back at the Dream Diary room, after swapping the Heimat and Rotfront cards around, and putting the death card on Lang, correlating to its diary entry mentioning the moon of Lang, we can flip this switch in the top left to swap the light to a black light, revealing that each card shows a phase of the moon. Using this info, we run back down to the moon phase dials and set them according to the cards, finally opening the hole back to the room. In the beginning of the game, trying to inspect anything in the room would have Elster plainly stating what the items are, or wondering whose room and stuff these belong to. Now though, Elster tells us how Ariane loved these old Imperial cereals, or how these are black and white pictures of the paintings she used to make. The national flag is here too. It's meaningless. We can inspect everything here as long as we want, but eventually, to move on, we have to pick up the King in Yellow once again. This room has healing items and ammo, but more importantly has 3 notes here. One is just a note from Ariane's aunt asking her to pick up books from the Itos, but the other 2 are much more important.
Workforce assignment for young Ariane. We have been informed that your compulsory military service period was recently completed. According to our files, you have previously graduated from Mandelbrot Polytechnical High School in Rotfront Sector C on R34.59C and have recently submitted an application for a military service assignment, Penrose Program. You have been processed by Aeon Workforce Assignment. Previous work experience, store clerk, young photo store, part-time, compulsory military service, Rotfront Orbital, long-range radio operations officer training. Should you not be accepted by a military service program by the end of the season or find other employment, you will be assigned the following workplace: S23 Sierpinski Production and Mining Facility on Lang.
So Ariane had 2 choices after her compulsory military service: work tirelessly in the mines on S23 until she dies or finds something else, or get accepted into the Penrose program to get sent out into space with just a replica and herself to look for habitable worlds for a while. I probably would have picked the Penrose program too. There's also a letter from Ariane's mother, checking in on her. It does mention a photo Ariane sent her of a woman that looks just like her, perhaps being related to them somehow. Though they don't know anyone named Sio in their family, and from the looks of it, the photo was taken on Veneta. She ends the letter asking Ariane to send a photo when her military service starts, since she'll be wearing the uniform like the woman in the photo. There's no going back after leaving through the top door, so sort your inventory out, bring your strongest weapons, and as much ammo for them as you can. Do try to make sure that you leave a space open in your inventory, because you'll need it, and don't forget to save beforehand as well.
All efforts to contain this illness have been in vain. All the Gestal workers have succumbed to it, leaving only dark shadows on walls and floors where they died. And soon, all of us replicas will have lost our senses and turned into writhing masses of flesh. I now believe it was not an infectious disease, nor some form of poison or radiation. It was a slow corruption of reality itself. As I've relived the same cycle over and over, each time details changed, things are twisted, added, removed. How long until it all turns to nothing but noise?
A red dream, a crashed ship, a strange gate, a hole in the ground, an island beyond reach, memories from other lives, dreams of suffering and loneliness, a promise, a search for someone lost. I saw her in the red emptiness, waiting for me. We had made a promise. As the memories of a stranger rushed into my mind, I felt the borders of myself blur. Now I can no longer tell where Falk ends and Elster begins.
You must turn back. There is nothing for you there. You've tried so many times and you've failed every time. Don't you see that you're ruining everything? This is your final warning.
We were dancing to that song they start the broadcast with. We fell asleep watching that movie we had seen before so many times. If only I could take us back to that time when we were happy. These memories are mine now.
After so many notes building her up, after fighting through multiple hells, our final obstacle to our promise hovers imposingly before us, beginning the final boss of the game. The Falk boss fight goes through multiple phases. The first phase, she'll throw a spear at us, and then throw all 6 spears behind her into the air, landing on the ground. Grab one, damage her enough for where she falls on her knees, and then run up and use the spear on her, which will stab it into her face. The next phase transports us to a medical room reminiscent of Sierpinski, 2 auras coming out of the floor during the phase. Take them out and keep doing damage until you can grab a spear from the ground and stab her with it. Phase 3 is the same but in an office-like room, and Falk will now start sending off these airwaves and throw a spear to damage us. The spears from this phase on will land completely red before an AoE explosion-like move will erupt from them and then dissipate, letting us grab and stab again. Fourth phase has us in an empty, carpeted room. Falk now has 3 shields orbiting her, so make sure to time your shots. She will now use a move that sends orbs out around her to hit you. Just dodge accordingly, then grab and stab after enough damage. Fifth phase has us in a room from nowhere full of cages and aura units. Note that Falk can damage them, so use that to your advantage if you can. Same moves as before, dodge and then grab and stab again. The final phase has her gaining a second set of shields moving the opposite direction of the other shields. Everything else is the same, just take that final spear once it's down, and then once she's down, use it.
You've returned. Are you really willing to go through with this once more? You've seen what happens. This world cannot take much more. This may be our last chance. If you go back, it'll all fall apart. I can't let that happen. You selfish monster.
We've made it. After a lot of blood, sweat, tears, and inventory management, we've made it back to the Penrose for the final time. We find the Penrose Phase 2 document here that we read from the flashback earlier in the game, but we'll find more notes from Ariane along the way to the cryopod, and I'll just let them speak for themselves. On the patient bed, not even 5 feet away from that note, is the Penrose Briefing Phase 3 document.
Congratulations, comrade. You've survived 3,000 cycles, reaching the final phase of the Penrose program. With the end of the operational lifetime of your replica unit approaching, it is time for you to prepare for the final phase of your mission. If you have not found a suitable world for landing by this point, accept that you will not. Find solace in the fact that others might be successful where you failed. As you are probably aware, your ship's spare parts and rations will soon be depleted. Life support systems and reactor shielding will soon begin to fail, and radiation may begin to leak from the cooling system. We recommend you do not attempt to prolong your suffering by reusing old filters or rationing supplies. Instead, make peace with your fate. We suggest that you ask your replica, while it is still functional, to spare you a slow and agonizing death, or that you take permanent rest in the cryogenic pod. Remember, you will die having served your nation by partaking in a glorious demonstration of our power.
Now that we've read that, we can get a full picture of what's going on here. The story of Ariane, and how we, Elster, fought through living hell to keep our promise to her. Ariane grew up with her mother on an isolated radio station, knowing nothing of the world beyond. She developed an interest in art, particularly in painting. However, due to her lack of contact with the outside world, she didn't attend or receive a proper education, which concerned her aunt, who had Ariane move in with her to attend school in Rotfront Sector C. Due to Ariane's personal love for art and not really fitting in, she was, as we see in the school flashback, mercilessly bullied. Though Issa didn't interfere to help, Ariane did become friends with the Ito twins at some point, probably due to the quote-unquote illegal literature sold at their bookstore. Sometime after finishing high school, Ariane served compulsory military service in the orbit of Rotfront and received long-range radio operations training, much like her mother. However, after her service was over, she had few options. Find employment and live her life under the nation that despised her for her unorthodox interests in art and music, which would be a miserable life, work in the mines of S-23 Sierpinski until she either dies or finds other employment, or her final option that she immediately applied for, the Penrose program, which would see her sent out to the vast reaches of outer space in search of a new world to inhabit, where she could be free to be herself in that ship, and on the new planet she dreams of finding. She gets accepted into the program and, along with an Elster 512 unit, gets shot off into space. At first, she loved being left alone, being able to do whatever she wanted without fear of repercussions, but like anyone would in a similar situation, she begins to miss other people, miss having friends or family to be with, so she becomes friends with Elster, until their bond grows into love for one another, and here, in the Great Beyond, they're happy. They then receive the new orders for the next phase of the program. There's no planned way for them to return. There's no planets for them to land on and inhabit. The nation shot them off on a one-way trip, knowing full damn well that they'd probably find nothing, and die slowly in a metal coffin drifting through the universe. But at least they can use them as a show of power, right? Use the Penrose 512 in a propaganda showing off how powerful the nation is, and how proud you'd better be to be a part of it. Despite this devastating news, Elster keeps Ariane alive, probably through use of the cryopod and rationing food and water. The ship slowly breaks down, radiation leaking from the nuclear reactor on board, giving Ariane radiation poisoning. Elster takes care of her the best she can, and during this we can presume that Ariane makes Elster promise her something. We don't know what, but a promise is referenced throughout the game. Finally, at some point, Elster puts Ariane in cryo, and Elster finally expires from the elements aboard the ship, unable to keep her promise. Now, from here, details are hazy, and I'm going to remind you that this is just my interpretation, but I believe the Penrose crashes into a celestial body, whether that be a planet, moon, asteroid, whatever. But I believe that when that happens, the cryopod is damaged, and Ariane becomes conscious. Using her bioresonance, which has been described as being able to warp reality and bend other people to the user's will, I think Ariane sent out a signal to Elster. I think this signal calls Elster units to come fulfill the promise. I also believe, though, that she was probably in agony, likely due to the radiation poisoning or possible cancer from said radiation, and I think some part of her bioresonance signal had that agony sent with it, hence the infection going around Sierpinski, where humans tend to die out pretty quickly. But the more durable cybernetic replicas reactivate after dying and are in frenzied states, chasing and attacking normal gestalts and replicas. I think the first part of the game is more grounded in reality, but still affected by bioresonance, mainly Falk's bioresonance. It's mentioned that deep in the mines, beyond the Red Gate, Falk saw Ariane, and her mind was infected with memories of Elster, blurring her sense of self. When Falk returned, she fell ill and was hospitalized, but I believe her bioresonance began to the slow corruption of Lang into what we see in the beginning of the game. S-23 Sierpinski is real, but is affected by and is basically Falk's domain, and after heading into the mines, jumping down into the big hole, we get to Nowhere. I believe Nowhere acts as a strange middle point between Falk's more grounded yet still warped reality, and Ariane's memory bleeding into and overtaking reality in the form of Rotfront. Yet throughout all of this, Elster keeps going, and depending on our actions as the player, we'll get one of multiple different endings. We'll go through each ending in order, starting with the first one. Leave. In this ending, achieved by avoiding killing as much as possible and trying to open a lot of locked or defective doors, as well as healing the moment you take damage, and staying in the Penrose flashback and beach segments for quite a while, Elster says she had to leave Ariane behind. She wanted to see her, but it was too much. She asks for forgiveness before walking away from the Penrose, removing the combat plate, and dying curled up in a ball. I used to not like this ending. I thought it was boring and didn't make sense to the rest of the game, but after a long time thinking about it, I appreciate it a lot more. I still don't like it as much as the others, but I respect it. Elster has been through a lot at this point. She's probably tired, and she probably can't even stomach the thought of seeing Ariane in a weakened, sickly state again. So she chooses to leave, asking for forgiveness for not having the strength to see her through. This ending is achieved by running through the game a bit quickly, killing a decent amount of enemies, but not too many, avoiding damage, and getting off the Penrose and Beach flashbacks really fast. In the memory ending, Ariane doesn't remember us, but Elster's okay with that. She asks to stay by her side for just a little longer, before dying in the same spot that we took spare parts from another combat Elster earlier in the game. Ariane puts her hand on her head, a small gesture of comfort, before we fade away. This ending is okay. It's not my favorite either, but still good. Now onto the ending I got the first time that I played. After everything we've been through, the multiple hells we, as Elster and the player, have endured, after doing almost anything to keep it, we fulfill our promise. And as depressing as it is, Elster puts Ariane, the woman she loved, out of her misery, before succumbing to her own injuries and dying shortly after. This is, in my opinion, the best ending. It's beyond depressing, especially when potentially just before this, you get hit with a Penrose Phase 3 gut punch, but as depressing as it is, I can't help but feel like it's better for the characters than the Leave or Memory ending. Ariane and Elster can finally rest, and maybe in the afterlife, somewhere, they'll dance with each other again. There is another ending. The artifact ending, which can be achieved by tuning your radio in specific spots throughout the game to get 3 keys for the safe in Ariane's room. Opening the safe reveals a pot of white lilies. This ending is one I'm still unsure how to feel about. Elster puts the lilies on one of the 6 pillars, and then dies in front of it, revealing a coffin slab thing with a glowing artifact on it before this German flashes on screen. Translating it, it turns out to be from Revelations chapter 10 verse 7, though the masculine pronouns he, his have been replaced with she, her. I've seen a lot of interpretations of this ending, but the one I think I like the most is that in Elster finishing this ritual, it wakes up Ariane and she ascends to a form of godhood, finally being able to dance happily with Elster again and forevermore. Though that is one of the more happy interpretations of this ending. No matter the ending you prefer, something beautiful about Signalis, even after studying everything you possibly can to try to understand everything you possibly can, is that there's still so much left up to interpretation. So much of this game, even if you don't understand the events, you can understand the emotion the developers wanted you to feel. From the tragedy of the Penrose, to how crushing the day-to-day life to living under the nation is, to Adler's desperation to get everything back in order, to get his beloved leader Falk back, you feel it. Another thing with the endings is it's implied that the entire game could be a time loop, a repeating cycle of Elsters receiving the signal and setting out to keep their promise. The body you borrow parts from to repair yourself after the fake out is in the same position Elster rests at in the memory and promise ending, and all those bodies of other Elsters, from breaking your fall down the elevator shaft to being littered around the plane beyond the Red Gate's threshold, are Elsters who either failed or could be ones who got the leave ending, continuing the cycle just one more time. And each cycle, each playthrough, while going through the same beats, the same general sequence of events, has small details that differ from each other. Kinda like how despite every version of the Isle of the Dead painting having different details, the same general shape and layout stayed the same. Everything looks the same, but the details change every cycle. Regardless, there is so much of this game's world I could talk about. Entire 2-hour video essays I could make on just one character alone, but none of it would have gotten across the feeling I had playing this game for the first time. And even after 3 months and 75 pages of writing the script and probably another month of just editing this video that ballooned into something bigger than I ever planned, I still don't know if this got my love for this game across, and I especially don't know if it's even a worthy love letter. But despite that, I had to make this video. I love this game, and I wanted to talk about it and pay homage to it somehow, and hopefully this did a good enough job. And instead of asking you to like, comment, or subscribe, instead I highly encourage you to share your interpretation of the game. It doesn't even have to be the overall story, it could just be an interpretation of one character, an area, an ending, the events of the game itself, the Yusan Nation and Empire War, literally anything you want to discuss or just plain gush about in the comments, do it. And I'll be there, happily reading and responding to as many as I can, because I'd be fascinated to hear your reading of it all. Also, please go watch other creators' videos on this game. I went on a bit of a media blackout for anything Signalis related until I had finished writing this script, but before even thinking about making this, I've seen Power Packs, Indie Explorers, and Ruby Seal of Codex Entries videos, as well as many more. And since this script's completion, Wormgirl came out with a huge Signalis video, and having listened to all of it recently, her video is amazing, and low-key makes me self-conscious of this one. But I wanted to highlight all of these guys specifically. They've made amazing videos about Signalis, and they just make incredible videos in general. So go swing by and check their channels out. You won't be disappointed. I can only hope you liked this train arc of a video trying to be a love letter as much as I liked making it. Criticism on the video is highly encouraged. I want to get better at making these, and some criticism and advice would go a really long way. Also, massive thank you to my friend Hunter, primarily for voicing the Replika overview files and a couple more notes here and there, and my friend Tristan for lending his voice as Adler. I read lines from Elster and Issa, and would love to have had them, Ariane, Falk, and most NPCs voiced, but none of my friends that are girls have played this game, and I wasn't about to message them and be like, hey, come voice this super depressing game with zero context and read some lines that'll make you question what the hell I'm playing in my free time. I don't know, it didn't feel right, you know? And again, thank you so much for watching. I doubt I'll be making a video this long for a while, since this took a lot more time and energy than I ever thought it would, and I was not prepared. But even now, after so many playthroughs, researching, writing, and editing this video, after watching so many other people's takes on it, this game still worms its way back into my head, signaling me to come back. And even if everything is a cycle, doomed to repeat forever, with no end in sight, it doesn't matter. I made a promise. I'll do anything. All that's here for now is a dick. Is it dick? After all that, taking the video cassette to the room with the TV, we can. Oh fuck. Apparently, she resembles.
It is come.
Keep that breadcrumb. Yeah, God, I can't say breadcrumb. Breadcrumb? Notes leading us like a breadcrumb trail. Breadcrumb. Fuck! For Gestalt officer eyes, I cannot speak today. Holy fuck.
A visitor? Welcome to our facility. You've caught us on a fortunate time.
Am I recording already? Oh, didn't mean to record me fucking opening a monster, but, you know, here we are. And don't worry, it's not like shitty battery acid monster. It's Monster Juice Pipeline Punch, which probably isn't better, but, you know, it's better than the normal battery acid flavor. It doesn't matter. There's gonna be like a comment or two that actually makes it to the end that's gonna let me know how unhealthy this is. I know, but this video has to get done at some point. Running to the incinerator room and clearing out the enemies right before, we unlock it and get some thermite flares. And then get to the puzzle. Oh my god, my fan's still on.
A visitor? Why do I keep fucking saying about that?
Yule, whom we promptly give some backshots to and step on. I can't believe I wrote that in my script. Causing millions of Yusan citizens to starve for another month as Imperial missile frigate. Yet throughout all of this, Elster keeps growing? Let's grow, dude! Fuck.